What's up, welcome back to Nowstalgia. Dave here with a review of Succession Season 4, the final season of Succession. I'm going to talk about the finale, the full season, my thoughts on the series. I'm going to spoil everything. But before I do, I just want to say Succession is in the television pantheon, one of the greatest shows of all time. I think that's incredibly clear, not up for debate. And frankly, I would say Succession is on that HBO Mount Rushmore. Now, that is a tall task, a high bar to clear, but I don't know. I think, the Undeniables, Sopranos, The Wire. After that, I'd have Game of Thrones and Succession in there. Next tier down, Leftovers, Veep, Deadwood. You can argue that. My point is, I think Succession is absolutely spectacular. They nailed this finale, and I'll spoil everything in a second, but I think what makes Succession so great, so memorable, so important, and so excellent is just, I think, a lot of obvious things that have been the case for a while, but the execution has always been so good, and this final season really nailed it. A big part of this is Succession kind of surprising everyone, deciding that season 4 was the final season. That was not publicized until, the season was about to come out. That was honestly a real masterstroke by Jesse Armstrong, and having the show go out with you wanting more. The show ended with clearly plenty of runtime, plenty of meat on the bone with all of these characters that are so finely drawn at this point that this show could have easily gone on for several more seasons. And if the show was on Showtime, it would have gone on for several more seasons. But Jesse had a plan, and him in the writer's room just deserves so much credit for the vision that is Succession. And I just found it really riveting the entire time. I was hooked on the show from the get-go. We've reviewed every past season on the show as well. Check those out. But, I think it just really is a show that got better and better. And season 4, I just found incredibly riveting the entire time. And that just goes to all the things you expect: the amazing acting, the amazing characterization, the absolutely impeccable writing. I saw someone tweet tonight that Succession does Succession does talking scenes like John Wick does action scenes, and that is 100% true. It's just really the most compelling drama you can have, and it's gone. 40 hours or 40 episodes, 30 episodes, whatever it is, an amazing run. And let's get into that. But just shout out Jesse Armstrong, shout out this writer's room. They really smashed this, and they should really be proud. This is going to run away with Emmys this fall, and I think the acting Emmy battle and the actors going up against themselves, I'll be very interested to watch, because not everyone can win when you're in the same category. But yeah, let's get into it. So in addition to Succession really nailing it with the kind of surprise 4th season being the final season decision, spoilers from here on out, another absolute masterstroke with Succession season 4 was the decision to take out Logan Roy, have Logan Roy die earlier than expected. I think it was incredibly clear to most viewers that Logan would pass sometime during this season. It's in the name of the show, after all. But to have it happen in episode 4, I believe, episode 4, right? 3 or 4? 4. That was unexpected, shocking. And of course, the episode when it happens is amazing. But the decision to do that early and have so much additional runtime with just the kids and having them go through everything without the gravitational force that was their lives, that was this show's center, Logan Roy, played by Brian Cox, to have the show enter its final act with 6 hours on the runway still. Absolutely amazing decision. They made the most out of that choice. I thought it was really good. Obviously, Brian Cox recently, once the press tour wrapped up with episode 4, he's recently said that he thought it was too early. And I mean, you can't blame him personally, but I have to disagree. I think they really crushed it with that decision. And just, from then on out, there's just episode after episode that's just a fucking banger, man. But if we just backtrack, even the last moments we get with Logan, he's barely on the season after all, right? And we get some, video footage and the Living Plus presentation, video. You see Logan after episode 4, obviously not in life, but if we backtrack, like the Logan in the present that you do get, I think there's some really poignant moments, right? Like the moment, I believe it's episode 1 or 2, um, the only real moment of Logan's the only genuine moment he seems to have in his life anymore is when he goes to the diner with his bodyguard and has like a really frank conversation with him. Absolutely impeccable scene. Communicates so much after you have this episode where he has all these hangers on and people in his life that want something from him, and Logan kind of communicating like that loneliness um, to the audience via that conversation with his bodyguard, I thought was really masterful, right? And then episode 3, Connor's wedding. Um, the karaoke bar scene at the very end, the famous quote, of course, I love you, but you're not serious people. Great meme, but also like that whole moment of Logan basically being as honest and sorry, apologetic as he possibly could be to his children was in that moment right there. It was amazing. And you combine that with an absolutely impeccable Connor moment. In general, this is the best Connor Roy season. Alan Ruck, shout out to him. Connor Roy, I'll get him in a second, but like Connor playing off that, in the karaoke bar scene and being, I think, really lucid and seeing the board better than his younger siblings. Really, really moving. And then right after that, Logan dies. And it's like this huge thing. And I think what's cool about Succession season 4 is that largely each episode is like a day in the life. Like it's only taking place over like one day, more or less. The finale changes that up, but generally speaking, it's like short, compressed periods of time, and it's all pretty quick, right? Because we build up to the funeral for Logan at the very end of the season, and it's actually, I think, a bit of like dissonance to the audience, where it's like if you're watching this week to week over the past, 10 weeks, which has been absolutely thrilling to engage with the show and talk about this show every week. Again, week to week is the way to go with dramas, no doubt. But the characters have progressed such little time, and meanwhile, it's been 2 months for us. And I think like a few weeks back, or 2 weeks back, 1 week back, when they go to the funeral, and Shiv has a comment about being like, "Oh, sorry, my dad just died." It's like, your dad just died? Well, I didn't know. For her dad had just died. Only been a few days, but for us, it had been 2 months. Kind of an interesting thing that you wouldn't normally think about a week to week viewing pattern, where like you're sitting with plot points longer than the actual characters you're watching are experiencing them. Um, great Connor season, right? You would never expect like that to be a thing with the show through the first 3 seasons. Like Alan Ruck, amazing casting, amazing performance, but Connor, of course, has always been the comic relief. He's the joke. And that is still the case in season 4, but I think he just really gets to blossom as a character and have actually incredible self-awareness. And Willa as well, great season for her. Their relationship kind of being out on Front Street for what it is, the transactional nature that it is. And Connor running a vanity campaign for president, sticking with it, all that stuff. I don't know, I thought it was like really captivating, just because like Connor, in the moments he does have on the show, he often in this season he often had like really, I think, perceptive things to say, usually to his other siblings. So I mean, I really loved all the Connor stuff throughout the season. Yeah, man. Let's see what else. So I think there's like standout episodes, right? Obviously, we know Connor's wedding, episode 3, the death scene, the death episode 4. Like these are really huge things, right? I think like once episode 4, honeymoon states, happens and Logan dies, it's just banger after banger. Like episode 5, kill list, fucking incredible stuff, right? This is when the Roys go to Europe, to the Gojo retreat, to treat with Madsen right after their dad has died, and of course builds up to, I think, all this like tete-a-tete, in the retreat, which I think is just compelling conversation after conversation, so good, culminating in this rooftop meeting, or not rooftop, mountaintop meeting between Kendall, Madsen, and Roman. And Roman eventually decides that Roman explodes, right? It explodes on Madsen. Really amazing stuff. But like the build up to that, where like this season really comes into focus, right? Where Kendall and Rome and Shiv, so they think, are all deciding to scuttle the deal, keep ATN, not sell to Gojo, and that becomes like our through line plot point throughout the rest of the season. I thought Kill List was really good. Learning a lot of stuff about the other people that work for Madsen is really fun. Some great Greg and Tom stuff there, but I thought that was a dynamite episode. And then you follow that up the following week with episode 6, Living Plus, where I think this is a big piece of character growth, character momentum for Kendall and of Roman. Roman backing out on the on the pitch on the thing, leaving Kendall off the dry basically, and having Kendall smash it, crush it, which of course selling bullshit, not actually delivering on something, but he's delivering on the bullshit in a way that indie investors in the stock market likes and stuff, and that's the grift that they've been into, right? That's how they work. That's how their leadership is. Seeing that kind of stuff, right? Seeing the gleam in Kendall's eye in that episode as Kendall is happy to become Icarus and fly as closest to the sun as he possibly can, because that's just what he craves. That's the thing that fuels him. Meanwhile, Roman thinks that's what he wants, but is actually a really small person and truly just a fucked up in the head kind of guy for many reasons. I thought Living Plus was excellent. It keeps going, right? Episode 8, America Decides. God, I mean that's Succession. I don't think Succession can make you feel any worse than how that episode makes you feel, right? And I think that's kind of leads into what kind of show this is, right? These are all detestable people for their character flaws, as well as their enormous wealth and how they flaunt it, their lack of care for other people. These are all flawed, bad people that we watching the show, and yet, like many of the other hit dramas of yesteryear, this era of difficult men on TV, you end up rooting for people. You end up rooting for Don Draper and Walter White and Tony Soprano, even though they're bad. And sometimes that's a disconnect between the creators and the writers of that very medium, right? They don't want you to like these people, but you just get attached to them. You get incredibly attached to the characters on Succession, including someone like Logan Roy, who is a bad person. Someone like Roman, who in American Decides just shows you how vile a person he actually is, and obviously the parallels to Fox News and the 2020 election, things like that. It's very obvious. A lot of the the lampooning of the Murdoch family has been very clear and on the nose by design on Succession for the past 4 years. That's nothing new. But I thought America Decides actually hits really close to home as an episode, while also making you feel really bad for being invested in the journey of these characters. Shout out Justin Kirk, who plays Jared Mencken, the Republican nominee for president. Amazing performance from him. It's really specific style, and you don't get a lot of him, but I think that's a really nice zeroed in performance from Kirk. And I think a kind of underrated thing about how Succession wraps up from there with the last 3 episodes, they don't tell you if Mencken ended up actually winning. They kind of hint at stuff, right? This stuff, I believe Wisconsin, right? It's did the votes get fully counted? Did ATN pull Arizona and call a state for Trump or Mencken that didn't actually go that way? Did they actually win the presidency or not? They don't tell you if that actually happened in the world of Succession or not. You get the reference, you understand what it's acknowledging, but that's not what this show is about, because the finale was concerned about what's actually important about the show, and it's the Roy family and those family dynamics. And I just thought the finale was masterful. It's just, you watch the 3 core siblings, Shiv, Ken, and Rome, and they seem to come together, especially once they learn that Shiv is not going to be the American CEO for Gojo. Madsen doesn't want someone as independent and as ideas driven as Shiv wants to be as a leader. Madsen wants an underling and thus picks Tom in her place. Tom, someone who, of course, throughout the season says he's willing to serve. That's the kind of person he wants to be, right? Because he's addicted to power. Watching all that go through, it's very reminiscent of the season 3 finale, right? It was the siblings have came together. They're going to finally win. They're going to get this shit done. And despite everything they've been through, all the fucked up shit that Roman did in 2 episodes back, Kendall, despite all his flaws, having his shit together, Shiv trying to find some kind of purpose, fulfillment, leading up to this board meeting. Riveting shit. Absolutely riveting shit. Whipping the votes, right? And it goes through. And man, they throw a curve with 20 inches of break, man. Everyone watching this shit swung and missed. No one saw that coming. Did I think it was going to go right for them? I was not confident. Definitely not. Again, does it go right for them in season 3? No. Tom fucks them. What happens this time, though? I think what needed to happen, right? There's been a lot of talk about who's going to win Succession, who wins. And to me, I never really viewed it as a show where there'd be a winner, right? There's a lot of joking about would cousin Greg win. Well, Greg definitely did not win this episode, man. Flipping on Tom the very last minute, tipping off Kendall that Shiv was the not getting it, right? And then Tom actually becomes CEO because the deal does go through, and now all the capital, the goodwill that Greg has built up for years with Tom is gone, right? Even if he might still be working for Tom, Greg got absolutely smashed at the end, stomped like a little bug, Greg did not win. Are the siblings going to win? In a sense, they hint, going to see, after they meet up with their mom to track down Roman, right? Shout out Harriet Walter. She's always great as the mom in limited screen time. It's well, someone has to be the CEO. Only one person really can do it, and Kendall's the most agreeable, sellable choice. So they decide that they're going to anoint Ken and let him do it because he definitely wants it the most, and it's the most logical thing. And it's okay, so they're all winning, even if technically Ken's the only one winning. And yet, what happens? Shiv backs out, and it's this whole thing, and man, in a sense, you could say it's super cringe watching these characters to expose themselves in front of everyone, the rest of the board, everyone else at the company, just kind of explode on each other in a conference room where they can be overheard. But there was a key thing that had to come up again in this finale. It had not come up since the season 3 finale when Kendall brought it up, and that was, of course, that Kendall killed someone. What was that? Season 2, season 1? I forgot exactly when it happened. But of course, Kendall killed someone when he was, basically strung out. And he had told Roman and Shiv at the end of season 3. It came up. Not that Kendall was ever going to go to jail. That's not what this was. But for whatever her reasons, including that, Shiv Votes doesn't want Kendall to have the CEO. And it's on one hand, I think Shiv as a character has not been super popular with viewers the last few weeks. Especially with America Decides, some of Shiv's decisions have irked the viewer, right? And this, it's you're rooting for these people again, even though they're not good people to want to root for. And when Shiv can't vote no on the deal, you get angry as a viewer, even though you don't necessarily should, right? It's is she not wrong to think that Ken shouldn't be the CEO? Does he deserve it? Would he be good at it? She doesn't think he'd be good at it. Do any of us think Kendall would be good at it? We watched him sell bullshit in Living Plus. He's good at selling the bullshit, but can he actually do it? And you have Roman drop the absolute fucking hammer once it's really set. And it's we're bullshit. I'm bullshit, you're bullshit, we're bullshit. This is what we do, whatever he says. Roman is laying it out there to Kendall that what they do is grift. I mean, I was kind of floored. I was wow, that's it. That's the show. They did it. And what happens as a result? None of them are involved. The company sells the Gojo. Tom Whamsgams, of all people, becomes the CEO. And honestly, he's one of the more experienced choices, right? He just has been working at ATN for some time. But Tom becomes the CEO. Shiv, by her own making, has Tom be the CEO, the job she wanted. And she thus seemingly will stay married in this loveless marriage that breaks them both down at every turn. And it's a mind-boggling decision, and yet it makes complete sense. Makes complete dramatic sense. So, will Shiv ever be happy again? She chose her unhappy life and the person she detests Tom, she chose that person winning over Kendall winning. It's pretty crazy. Roman, we saw how small and fucked up Roman is really really throughout the whole show, but especially in the back half of this season, right? He's a character that was so funny throughout the run of the show, just the one-liners, performance from Kieran Culkin, but truly, like, he just, as Kendall said last week, you fucked it. Like, he just doesn't have it, and Ken wants it so bad, and just can't do it. Couldn't get it done, and watching him just kind of walk off in a daze, basically, kind of wild stuff. I thought it was a really riveting finale. Just how this show kind of communicates, I think, family and power dynamics and people's obsession and desperation to remain close to power, whether that's someone like Tom at the top or someone low like Hugo or Carolina, stuff like that. Great episode for tons of the supporting cast too. I think it's a great Carl season, great Frank season. Jerry, everyone loves Jerry. Amazing Jerry season. Perhaps not the most screen time for Jerry throughout the course of the show, but I thought Jerry was great. Jess, I thought Jess, for the few small moments she did have, whether it's in America Decides talking to Greg, or when she wants a new position from Ken in the funeral episode, like, Jess, really great. I think it's just a show with such a deep bench. We don't get a lot of Stewie, but we love Arian Moayed. Can't say enough good things about Skarsgård as well. Obviously, this is his biggest role on the show. He's like a starring member this season, and the performance as Madsson is incredibly strong. The Madsson character, I think, really fit in well on this show and served like a really strong purpose, especially when after everything happened with the deal and post Logan. I really liked all that. I think it's frankly, the most significant thing Skarsgård's done in some time. Like, obviously, I love The Northman, but it wasn't a huge hit or anything. But like, it's I think a really knockout performance. Tom and Greg stuff as great as ever, right? But shout out the Disgusting Brothers, so fucking funny. But also, like, I think the Tom's relationship with Greg, I think, really like evolved and advanced as Greg became more of a capable operator as he can throughout the run of this show. All the Tom and Shiv stuff was absolutely devastating. The best acting that either of them has done on the show is usually in concert with them together. The apartment fight on the balcony, absolutely gutting, really letting everything all out at the end. Yeah, I mean, I think this is just one of the great shows. Like, I think it's that simple, it's amazing. And I think it's on the HBO Mount Rushmore. Overall, it's in the greater television pantheon. I think that's undebatable. I think it's on the HBO Mount Rushmore. That is a competitive mountain to be on for sure. But yeah, let me know. How do you feel about that? Is Succession on your HBO Mount Rushmore? How did you feel about Succession season 4? Let me know. I'll be in the comments. And for more TV reviews, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.